The Allied forces that fought World War II ran on more than courage, gasoline, and steel. They depended instead on a subtle, silvery-grey substance that dictated the very lethality and speed of the entire advance. This crucial additive hardened the lead in every bullet and shell, granting them the power to pierce armor and maintain their deadly shape under intense fire. It also made the batteries powering tanks, trucks, and critical radios stronger, longer-lasting, and resilient against the brutal shock of constant combat. These were two invisible contributions that fundamentally altered the tempo and perhaps the outcome of the global war. That essential element, known later as an unsung war hero, was antimony. 8 decades later, this same substance is back at the center of a new kind of conflict. This war is fought not on battlefields, but through trade deals, supply chains, and quiet diplomacy. Because in an age dominated by AI, electronic warfare, and total dependence on semiconductors, whoever controls the supply of antimony controls the future itself. But what exactly is antimony, and why does this element hold such immense importance? Antimony is a metalloid, something that sits halfway between a metal and a non-metal, and that in-between nature is exactly what makes it so useful. This precise electrical balance makes it vital for smartphones, electric vehicles, fighter jets, missiles, wind turbines, and satellites. According to experts, it's not just a key component of modern technology. Our entire current way of life depends on it. But an element so deeply woven into the foundations of modern power cannot be taken for granted. If our modern way of life truly depends on this substance, where exactly does all this essential material actually come from? The answer is a geopolitical flashpoint. For decades, China has been the undisputed leader in antimony mining and processing. Currently, China leads in antimony mining, controlling about 53% of the global output. Following them are Russia at roughly 20% and Tajikistan at 17%. Beyond raw material extraction, China also controls the majority of antimony processing facilities globally. This means that the Communist Empire still processes 80% of the global supply and thus commands its ultimate supply chain. This extreme concentration creates an immediate and undeniable resource security issue for every other major industrial power. In the US and Europe, antimony is now classified as a critical mineral, specifically because its supply is so heavily consolidated. Any political instability, trade tariff, or intentional export restriction involving this dominant supplier can instantly send prices skyrocketing and choke off essential manufacturing processes worldwide. It makes antimony not merely a commodity, but a tool of immense economic and strategic leverage in a world increasingly reliant on fragile, high-tech supply lines. This leverage, however, is not theoretical. Beijing has already demonstrated its willingness to use its dominance in critical minerals as a direct economic weapon in trade conflicts. Amid escalating geopolitical tensions and in direct response to the Trump administration's tariff war, China executed sharp export restrictions. In December 2024, China enacted a targeted export ban on antimony, gallium, and germanium to the US, citing national security concerns. The immediate fallout was swift and brutal. The price of antimony skyrocketed from $15,000 per ton to over $50,000 per ton by mid-2025. Manufacturers in the United States were scrambling, forced to reroute shipments through intermediary countries like Thailand and Mexico to dodge the direct ban. Historically, the U.S. has relied on China for over 60% of its antimony needs, meeting only a fraction of its demand through domestic recycling. After months of this economic siege, the crisis ended, temporarily, with a high-stakes, face-to-face meeting between the U.S. and Chinese presidents. In a public show of de-escalation, China agreed to suspend the export controls on critical minerals, easing the immediate pressure on global supply chains. President Trump praised the amazing talks. Yet, as experts noted, there was no ink on paper. The core strategic threat remains, proving that mineral dependence could be turned on or off with a handshake. The sudden shock of the export ban exposed the West's vulnerability. The challenge now is not just to survive the immediate trade war, but to completely rewire the global supply chain for critical minerals, including antimony. The United States, alongside allies like the European Union and Australia, has launched a frantic, multi-billion-dollar push to achieve mineral independence. The strategy is clear: bypass China's refining dominance by building domestic processing capacity from the ground up. But this is a decade-long engineering nightmare. Antimony processing is a chemically complex, energy-intensive, and environmentally risky business. Experts warn that even with sustained political will and immense capital investment, breaking China's chokehold will likely take a decade, if not longer. The West may hold a third of the world's raw mineral reserves, but it controls barely 10% of the refining capacity needed to turn those rocks into usable antimony. New projects are now underway, including the fast-tracking of mining projects in the US and partnerships with countries such as Australia. But the obstacles are immense: massive capital costs, a critical lack of technical expertise, and the bureaucratic nightmare of permitting new mines and refineries. Furthermore, the environmental scrutiny in the West makes it exponentially harder to replicate the rapid, low-cost processing methods used in China. This isn't just a matter of money, it's a deep, systemic shortage of technical know-how and industrial scale. According to the International Energy Agency, the global demand for antimony and other rare earths is forecast to double by 2030. The era of cheap, easily accessible antimony is over. The price of technological sovereignty is high, and the world is only beginning to pay the cost. What we are witnessing is the dawn of a new kind of resource war, a strategic conflict fought over the periodic table. During World War II, the Allies' challenge was one of logistics, getting the antimony from the mine to the factory. Today, the challenge is structural: how to manufacture trust and resilience into a supply chain that has been optimized for global efficiency but compromised by political fragility. The unsung war hero of the 1940s has become the defining strategic battleground of the 2020s. Thank you for watching. If you found this analysis helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Let us know in the comments below what other critical mineral is defining the future of global conflict.